Michael Flynn's plea deal met with public silence by President Trump, but one source close to the president telling NBC News it's very, very, very bad for the White House. Flynn, not only a former national security advisor, but a key Trump confidant for months during the campaign.
General Flynn, how great is he?
Flynn had gone after Hillary Clinton over her emails at the Republican convention.
Yeah, that's right. Lock her up.
But now that Flynn has been charged, the White House staff wondering what he'll say to special counsel Robert Mueller. Some close to the president concerned Flynn could offer information that would harm Mr. Trump. Although White House special counsel Ty Cobb saying in a statement, nothing about the guilty plea or the charge implicates anyone other than Mr. Flynn. Mueller's investigation a frequent target of the president. 8 months ago tweeting, Mike Flynn should ask for immunity in that this is a witch hunt. Excuse for big election loss by media and Dems. Flynn has long been a political lightning rod. After being pushed out of the Obama administration, he became a lobbyist, advocating for closer ties with Russia, sitting next to Vladimir Putin at an event by a Russian propaganda network where Flynn gave a paid speech. His biggest public moment once inside the White House as national security advisor, this tough talk against Iran.
We are officially putting Iran on notice.
But Flynn had become a controversial figure behind the scenes. In January, then acting Attorney General Sally Yates warning the White House that its national security advisor may be subject to blackmail by the Russians based on his false accounts of conversations with the Russian ambassador. 2.5 weeks later, Flynn was fired after it was revealed he had misled the vice president about those conversations, and Yates' warning became public in the Washington Post. The president explaining his decision.
No, I fired him because of what he said to Mike Pence.
But also blaming the media.
I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media. As I call it, the fake media in many cases.
Later defending Flynn in an interview with Lester.
This man has served for many years. He's a general. He's, in my opinion, a very good person.
Now, Flynn becomes the most senior person on a list of at least 3 other former Trump campaign associates and advisors who have either been indicted or pled guilty in the Mueller investigation. And tonight, congressional investigators reacting to the Flynn plea deal.
In terms of his contacts with the Russians, we see this constant pattern, one after another.
Former FBI Director James Comey, who was fired by President Trump, weighing in tonight, tweeting a verse from the Bible that reads in part, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness." A source close to this administration tells me that the White House was completely blindsided by this news today, Lester.
All right. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.